Dear student, welcome to the lecture number 11 about our module of Introduction to Economic. We are always with the great economic problem. We started with the inflation, and today we'll talk about the unemployment. And to understand the unemployment properly, we need to know how to define it and measure it, and also we need to understand the different types and the possible causes. Uh, Unemployment occurs when someone is willing and able to work but does not have a paid job. So, when we are talking about the unemployment rate, so it is a percentage of people in the labor force who are unemployed. So, here we can distinguish between two categories when we are talking about the labor force and the unemployment rate. As you see here, we have groups in a labor market. The first group is the labor force. Here in the labor force, we can, in the labor market, we can distinguish between two types. We have the labor force and who are not included in the labor force. What about the labor force? We have also two main categories, which are the unemployed and the employed. The unemployed include the person who are looking for a job but they didn't still find this job. But the employed, we can also distinguish between two types: working or employed for part-time and employed for full-time. This is all that we call that the workforce. In the other hand, here in this part, we have not in the labor force, and we cannot include them in the labor force. And we found, for example, persons who are not looking here for a job for other reason, maybe students. We have also the retired and the permanently unable to work. They cannot work maybe for medical reason or so on and so forth. So when we are going to calculate the rate in employment, we take into consideration this group. So now to calculate the unemployment rate, so to understand how to unemployment rate is calculated, we can use an example. In this example, we have, for example, 12.6 million people unemployed and 0.7 million people are unemployed. So the size of the labor force is calculated as the sum of these two groups. We have the unemployed, sorry, we have here the employed plus the unemployed. It will give us the labor force. So here we have 12.6 plus 0.7 million. It will give us 13.3 million as workforce. And in order to calculate the rate or the unemployment rate, the formula is like this. We have this formula. So it equals the unemployment or the employed person divided by the labor forces times 100. In our example, the employed person it equal 0.7 million. It divided by the 13.3 million is the sum of employed and employed person, multiplied by 100. It will give us 5.3%. So our employed rate in our case here is 5.3%. So the different type of unemployment We can distinguish between principally between four types of employment. Let's start with the first one, which is the frictional employment. It's when people take time to find a job. Example, when someone is let off job, of a changed job, or need time to find a job after graduating from schools, and it consists mostly of people who are employed for a short time. The second type is called the structuring employment. It's when worker skill do not match what job are available for the current economy, and the main causes of structuring employment, we can say that it's a result of technological change, or we have new resources, change in consumer demand. It's a result also of the globalization, shift to foreign market, and lack of education. The third type is called the seasonal employment. It's when industries slow or shut down for a season of the year to make seasonal shift in production channel, and people lose their job. Here I can give you a very simple and clear example. One people, for example, who sells Eid, for example, Eid al-Fitr, for the Muslims costumes are out of a job because the Eid has passed. So it is just a simple example to understand a seasonal unemployment. A last example is a last type, sorry, is about the cyclical employment, and this employment that goes up during times of economic turmoil and goes down during times of economic prosperity. For example, a recession causes people to save more and spend less because of these companies may show down production and lay off worker. We can give you an example of the financial crisis of 2008, or the last downturn in economy due to a health crisis of corona or COVID-19. So it causes a huge number of unemployment rate. So it's about employment. So through this part, we try to understand the definition and different types and how could we calculate the rate of employment. Now we move to an important curve which try to lie between the inflation and the unemployment, which is the Phillips curves. So Phillips curves is an economic model that named after Bill Phillips, and it shows the possible inverse relationship between the unemployment rate and the rate of inflation. Here I have already, sorry. This is the curve of Phillips. So here, the short run Phillips curve is an inverse and not linear relationship between these two variables, chart the inflation rates and the unemployment rate. We have these two variables. So here, when employment is high, for example, we can take this level. We can take this level of employment. So when it is high, we can notice that inflationary pressure in an economy tend to be weak. For example, here we have, this is the rate inflation. In this level of unemployment, the rate inflation will decrease, and here the employment will increase. So as I said, the inflationary pressure in an economy tend to be weak, so in part because there is a high level of employment and plenty of spare capacity. But as the employment goes down further than wage pressure and prices, inflation may start to accelerate as the economy experiences capacity constraint. So, a change in expected inflation can cause a shift in the short run Phillips curve. Even this curve, or this idea of relationship between inflation rate and the unemployment rate, had a strong impact on the economic studies. But in 2022, the study found that the slope of Phillips curves is small, and was small even during the early 1918. Nonetheless, the Phillips curve is still used by the central banks in understanding inflation. So, through our lecture number 10 and number 11, which are about the economic, or the great economic problem, we talk about the inflation, and we cannot neglect the deflation. They are two inverse phenomenon, and they are, both of them are a big problem for economy, which can cause instability, and they also can cause this problem for the purchasing power, and we cannot plan for future in the in the both of the two cases. We also try to understand the main causes of inflation, and how could we define the employment and relate employment, how could we distinguish between the forced labor in the market, and also how could we calculate it through the relation of employed divided by the workforces times 100 in order to get the rate of employment, and what are the different types of employment, which are the frictional, cyclical, seasonal, and seasonal, and what have also cyclical, also structural also, yeah. And also the last point of our two lectures is how to lie between inflation and employment rate is through the Phillips curves, which and his model, which shows us the inverse relationship between these two variable. And it is the end of our lecture. Thank you for your attention.